Good morning. Wow. It feels like it's been forever. And it actually kind of has. It's been 3 weeks since the last time we were on here because of our little break that we took, a couple of weeks off to spend some time with family and go participate in some fun family adventures. But welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve on this Saturday, September 18th, 2021. I'm Steve. And good to see you here. Hello, Carissa. Hello, Jason. And yeah, it's feels good to be back. It's always weird anymore when I'm not on consecutive Saturdays in a row, because then when I do come back on, I kind of have to reset everything and make sure that cameras are working and lights are working and microphones are working. I hope it's all working. I'm talking away like I'm on the air here, so I'm hoping I'm on the air. Hello, and hello, Carla. Hello, Shalane. Hello, Rick. Hello, Mallory. Fun. Just want to mention this and put in a plug as well. Both Mallory and Shalane, coincidentally, Mallory is in Redding, California, Shalane in Yakima, Washington, but they are both appearing right now in productions of the play Clue. If you're familiar with the game, if you're familiar with the movie, if you're familiar with the stage play, you know what Clue is about. And I'm going to let Shalane and Mallory plug on their own in terms of any information about their theater companies, the role that they're playing. But part of the fun coincidence, completely separate cities, California, Washington, hundreds of miles away from each other, and both of them had opening night last night for their productions. So a lot of fun. So I saw a couple of things on Facebook this morning from Mallory. It looks like you had a great opening night. Shalane would love to hear how your opening night went as well, unless it was a total disaster and you don't want to talk about it, but that's fine. Good morning, Jay. I see Jay Zetterval on here. If I have not said hello to you yet, make sure that you catch my attention in the chat so I can say hi. But anyway, yes, it is September 18th. Man, the year is definitely plugging along here as we get closer and closer to the season. For me, there's almost like this real ramp up. It's almost like a snowball effect that occurs once we get into autumn. And then we start to get toward the holidays. And I include in the holidays, I include things like Halloween, because it is a big deal, right? Everybody decorates for it and people kind of plan around that, parties get thrown, etc. And so we get into this season and Halloween is getting planned for, and then you get into Thanksgiving, and then we're into Christmas, we're into Hanukkah, we're into all of the holidays that occur through that last part of the year. And while it still seems like it's a long way away, all of a sudden it just is here. It just happens. So yeah, so let's see. I'm seeing some comments. It was great. Shalane saying it was great. She hasn't posted any pictures yet because she's been using every second to prep before showtime. Yeah, right. Yes, so here we are. We're back. Hi, Kim Baker. Good morning to you and happy Catterday. I know I've missed you as well, but it is good to be back. A couple of quick things about our adventures the last couple of weekends. And thank you for that to Moderator Cap, making sure we all know it's 108 days until Christmas. Fall isn't even fall without rain. Yeah, we're getting some sprinkles in the forecast here in our area, but we're once again in a very heavy drought situation in California. So 2 weeks ago, we had our Redding family, Christopher and Mallory and Nicholas in town, and we took a trip into San Francisco. Took Nicholas and did a trip. And again, if you've been on my Facebook, you've seen all of this, but where we took ferry across from Oakland into San Francisco, which is always a lot of fun. You pass under the Bay Bridge, you're out there in the water, you see the bay and you see the city from this wonderful perspective. And we got there and we got on a hop-on, hop-off bus tour and toured around San Francisco, sitting up on the upper deck and the open upper deck of the bus, of the tour bus. And then went across the Golden Gate Bridge with all the wind, got off there, took some pictures, got on another hop on, hop off, came over and went to Pier 39, did some shopping, looked at sea lions, had some lunch at a wonderful seafood restaurant, and then took a very long exercise walk back down to the ferry building in order to get back across. I'll tell you, Nicholas held up fantastically throughout the day. I think maybe as well or better than the adults, but we were all ready to just call it a day by the time we got home. But it was a fantastic adventure. Now, the following weekend, this last weekend, Remy and Jameson were with us, our older grandsons, and we took a trip over again on the ferry, getting used to taking that ferry from Oakland over to San Francisco, and then went up to the pier to catch the ferry across to Alcatraz. And Remy and Jameson and I toured Alcatraz. I'd been there before, but we wanted to take the boys over there. So we did all our walking around up there. Again, great weather. We had a fantastic time. The boys did a great job, and we all had a wonderful time. And then our feet were a bit tired. So we caught one of those, I don't know if you've seen these, but they're kind of the bike taxis where it's a bicycle with a little cart behind it. So we took the bicycle taxi back down to the ferry building and then had lunch there and then took the ferry back across. So, I mean, some great adventures. It's definitely worthwhile to me, while I miss everybody here, to be able to take days when uninterrupted, we can get an early start and just spend time with family. So thank you. Thank you for graciously allowing that. Thank you for giving me that flexibility to do that. But it's great to be back. I want to share some special days coming up this week with you. I did my wedding 12 years in Alcatraz, Chelan. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, again, welcome. If you're here watching live, make sure you say hello and participate today in the conversation. If you tune in later on and you're watching this recorded, you can still participate. You can still make your comments in the chat. We want to make sure that you become part of the conversation as well. Special days. Today, September 18th, this is actually the third Saturday of September every year. International Red Panda Day. Now, red pandas, if you're not familiar with the animal, kind of look more like a fox. They're not like the big giant pandas that are black and white. Red pandas have a reddish hue, and they look like a fox. And Carissa is going to remember this, but we have an experience. Oh, hi, Kathy Glavin. Hello, Scott Glavin. Good to see you. And we have an experience that I won't go into all the detail, but we were in Washington, D.C. some years ago and went to the National Zoo, which is free because it's part of the Smithsonian. If just putting in a plug, if you have never been there, go see the National Zoo in Washington. It's worthwhile. It's cool. Go see all the Smithsonians in Washington. They're all cool. But we got there right when they were supposed to open, and they were holding everybody out of the zoo. Had security up front and zoo personnel, and we went across to a Starbucks, and somebody said, yeah, apparently an animal got out. And so they're holding everybody back so they can catch it. Well, a little bit later, they opened the zoo. We were in the Starbucks. We see across the street, people are going in. So we went in, and we'd heard that a red panda had escaped. And the red panda enclosure was pretty early on in the exhibits. And so we got over there, we saw the red panda in its enclosure there, and outside of the enclosure there was actually one of those pet carriers like you would use to take your dog to the vet, and a pole with a net on it. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's what they used to catch this little guy and put him back in there. So we're in the zoo, and we start hearing from people. We're talking, I think even may have talked to some zoo staff, and they said no, they haven't caught it yet. That was its companion that's still in the enclosure, but they still don't know where the one that got out is, and they don't know how it got out. Well, a little bit later, we were walking by one of the entrances where people could drop off in their cars. And all of a sudden, we see all this commotion and zoo personnel running out of the enclosure or out of the entrance with the pet carrier and the pole and the net, and news media with cameras following them out. We found out on the news that night that the red panda that escaped was actually found about a half mile away at an apartment complex, and animal control had actually secured it until the zoo personnel could get there. It made the national news and everything. So I have a special affinity for Red Panda Day because of our own experience in dealing with a red panda escape at the National Zoo in Washington. Long, short story. Today is also, hang on. Yeah, obviously needed that. Today is also National Cheeseburger Day. National Cheeseburger Day. So I encourage you all to get out and eat a national cheeseburger wherever your favorite. What's your favorite cheeseburger? How is it? A homemade cheeseburger? Is it grilled? Do you have a favorite restaurant that you like to get cheeseburgers from? What's your favorite cheeseburger restaurant or recipe? Also today, Oktoberfest. This is the beginning of Oktoberfest. Always starts in September. I think they should call it Septemberfest for the first couple of weeks and then change it, but that's just me. And it originated and still gets celebrated big time in Munich, Germany. And a couple of years ago, we were actually in Munich on the tour of several countries in Europe. We happened to be in Munich during Oktoberfest. Yeah, they celebrate big time. I will guarantee that. Tomorrow, the 19th of September, International Talk Like a Pirate Day. What do we all say? I'm going to look for it in the chat, right? What do we all say for International Pirate Day? Arr. And that calls for another to clear the throat. And then following up on our food theme from Cheeseburgers and Oktoberfest, because Oktoberfest, you got to have your pint of beer and you got to have your German sausage and whatever else. The 20th, September 20th is, yes, we can say Munich on Facebook. 20th is National Pepperoni Pizza Day. So today you can go out and have a cheeseburger, and a couple of days from now you can have your National Pepperoni Pizza. If you're into pepperoni pizza, for some people that's not their favorite. We're not going to get into the controversy today about pineapple or no pineapple, because that's a different kind of pizza that isn't included in Pepperoni Pizza Day. And then the 22nd, this coming week, is the first day of fall, the autumnal equinox. And we're actually then officially into autumn. We're into fall season this next week, talking about things that start rolling fast through the end of the year, right? Also on the 22nd is Hobbit Day, right? J.R.R. Tolkien's characters. Why the 22nd of September? Because in the storyline, as I recall, that is the birthday for both Bilbo and Frodo. Both celebrate their birthday on that day. If I'm incorrect about that, somebody correct me, but I believe that's why that is Hobbit Day. I don't think it's because it's Tolkien's birthday. I think it's actually a big Hobbit birthday day, which they celebrate in the story. And then I also just want to mention the one birthday that I have that I want to mention is on September 24th. My uncle, Ron Sparks, celebrating a birthday on September 24th. So happy birthday, Uncle Ron. And if you have a special day coming up this week that you want to make sure that we recognize, please put it in the chat so we can call that out. It could be a birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be some other special day that you celebrate. Always interested if people have special days that are kind of different, but put those in there. Also, if you have a special day coming up anytime the rest of September or getting ready for October, you want to message me and let me know so that we can make sure we include it the proper week and recognize you. All right, stalled long enough. Oh, your Kathy Glavin, your dad's birthday is today. All right, happy birthday. You guys doing anything to celebrate? Still just doing it long distance? Good, thank you. All right. How about next week? Yeah, you can let me know if are you talking about birthdays next week? Yeah, let me know about it because we want to make sure we mention it, Rick. So we got to bring up any special day. All right. Life's most embarrassing moments. We have talked about this on coffee breaks before. We've I don't know, it's been a year and a half ago probably that we talked about life's most embarrassing moments. Look, we've all had them, right? And what makes something embarrassing can be a very subjective thing. For some people, something might be actually, hi Lila, something might be mortifyingly embarrassing. And for someone else, they shrug their shoulders and it's no big deal. It could be a verbal faux pas, something you say. It could be, I've known people who, you're in the middle of a business meeting or something and somebody accidentally passes gas in the middle of a business conference. And for some people, even something like that, it depends on you. Right. For some people, they're like, oh, my gosh, I have to go bury my head in the sand now. I can't even be here. I got to leave forever. For other people, they would just go, hey, excuse me, farted. They're just not a big deal. Saying something that you didn't intend to say, doing something that you didn't intend to do, tripping, running into something, realizing that your skirt was tucked into your pantyhose or that you left your zipper down during an entire presentation. What are those life's most embarrassing moments? I'll share a couple of them. Excuse me. One of them is choking on your own saliva while you're talking. Hang on. I'll share a couple of mine with you that are really, one of the things about life's most embarrassing moments is the embarrassment. it depends on the situation, because sometimes reliving the moments can cause you to blush again, can cause you to feel that chagrin again. Sometimes you just look at it and you just kind of shake your head and go, I can't believe I did that. One of my life's most embarrassing moments was something I actually intended to do, and, played it out in my mind and thought it would go a certain way. And it was back when I was college age, and my dentist's assistant was a really cute girl, really cute. And I just had a procedure done that was a bit uncomfortable. I'd just been to the dentist, and I think it was a root canal or something. And she held on to my hand while the procedure was going on because she knew that it was uncomfortable and that I was nervous. And I already thought she was really cute and kind of had a crush on her from going to that dentist previously. Now, this was not one of those situations. I've heard people say that, on like if they're on medication or something during a procedure, saying something that they didn't even intend to say because the inhibitions were down. That wasn't me. I left the dentist that day, but I thought, okay, I'm going to ask this girl out. So I went back a couple of days later. I don't remember how many days later. Went back to the dentist's office. Get ready for this. This is like, 19 years old, and talk about being stupid and naive. I can laugh about it now. But I went to the receptionist, who knew who I was because I'd been into the dentist multiple. This was my dentist. They knew who I was. It wasn't like I was a stranger and I could be anonymous. Asked to see her, asked if she was available, asked to talk to her outside, and asked if she would go out with me. And she said no. I think she had a boyfriend. And I could hear as she went back in, I could hear her giggling and laughing. I mean, I think that the receptionist had to know kind of what was coming, and probably so did this young lady. But, that level of embarrassment and kind of like, why did I even do that? Why did I think that was going to be okay? Never went back to that dentist again. Had to switch dentists, right? That was one of those, okay, I can never show my face here again. How could you go back and be in the same room and, first of all, know that she knew, but second of all, who else in the place now knows about this? Now, we'll get in a few minutes about why things that are embarrassing to us are not necessarily as big a deal as we make them. But, sometimes they are kind of a big deal, at least within that context. Another one happened at a time later on in my career when I was at a conference where we had a group of people there. And it was before I was in nonprofit work. I was actually in the insurance industry at the time. And I was doing a gathering of some of our independent agents. I was a marketing representative for the company, and we'd bring agents together and we would talk about what we were doing in our company and make sure that they were comfortable with our product and, push our product through. And there was one of the independent insurance agents was somebody I had met before at parties and events. They'd have these annual conferences, and he came in. He and his lady came in, and I think they were just kind of getting seated. They weren't there beforehand. I'd been mingling with people, and I hadn't said hi to him because they came in right at the last minute. And he sat down kind of mid but center. I could see him, and I said, just welcoming people, pointing out a few people. And I called him out and said, "It's good to see you here. So glad you were able to make it." And I called out his wife by name, who was next to him, and so it was great to see her, Susan or whatever her name was. Well, afterwards, somebody else pulled me aside and filled me in that, no, he and his wife had just been going through a messy divorce, and this was the new girlfriend. This wasn't his wife. And so, there wasn't anything I could do at that point. You can't go back and rewind what you said live in those situations. I remember at the time, at that moment, thinking that it was a little bit of like an awkward silence when I welcomed him and he and his wife. And I remember maybe at the time thinking, did I say their name wrong or something? Yeah, that was it. Now, it was one of those where I debated, do I go up to him and apologize afterwards? And I thought, anything I say here is probably going to just make it worse. I don't recall if I ever reached out to him even to apologize. I think I was just too embarrassed by the entire incident and just thought, I'm just going to pretend like it never happened. But we have those incidents, right? We have these things that, and I wondered, Christopher putting in something that he happened to him recently. I know my wife has shared. I'm not going to share anybody else's embarrassing moments. My wife has shared with me some of the ones that she's had in times past, and my other family members have shared things, and you're welcome to share them. I mean, I think sometimes airing them out is okay. And in fact, that can be a way to heal some of those, because there are some realities about life's most embarrassing moments. I have an article here. I'm just going to read some highlights from this, but it's from a column in the Huffington Post from 2011, November of 2011. Fortunately, embarrassment and how you deal with embarrassment doesn't have a shelf life, right? But this is by Teresa Borchard, who is the author of Beyond Blue and the Pocket Therapist. Looking at her, I was looking to see if her credentials are up here. She's associate editor at Psych Central, where she contributes to World of Psychology. She writes the daily blog Beyond Blue for BeliefNet.com, blogs for BlissTree.com, and is the author of Beyond Blue, Surviving Depression and Anxiety and Making the Most of Bad Genes. And she has a website. Now, again, this was 10 years ago, so I don't know if all of that is current, but I wanted to attribute this appropriately. Dying of embarrassment. She's talking about dying of embarrassment. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'm going to read highlights of the 10 steps that she talks about to overcome embarrassment. 1, keep the right tense. Remember that all embarrassment takes place in the past. Theoretically, if you were able to stay in the moment perfectly, you wouldn't feel an ounce of embarrassment, because all those messages inside your brain belong to a different time and place. She realizes that doesn't make it all go away, but remember, it's in the past. There's that moment in the movie The Lion King where he gets whacked on the head. Ouch. Yes, it still hurts, but it's in the past. Number 2, stop apologizing. This one is counterintuitive for me, she says. I honestly think that if I apologize, I will return to feeling normal. Even if I've apologized like 5 minutes prior to that moment, I suppose I am an apology addict. Just one more apology and I'll feel okay. And she talks about the fact that apologizing, there may be times when an apology is necessary, but apologizing over and over again doesn't make the embarrassment go away. Number 3, be you, neurotic you. She talks about if you wear your psychiatric charts on your sleeves and are so transparent that every thought is registered like a bulletin on your face, it's still be okay with who you are, she says. Number 4, visit humiliation's past. That's kind of what we're doing today, right? This one will help you keep things in perspective. When you thought you really were going to die, or at least you wanted to, in hindsight, not a huge deal, right? As an exercise, you should list your top 5 embarrassments, and then she actually lists hers. And hers are pretty good in some cases. I listed 2 of mine. It's funny because this is another thing, and that is we experience these multiple times, right? We probably experienced some recently. I have to think hard to dig up 2 or 3 that really come to mind. I mean, there are other times that I have felt humiliation about things, but there is, by the way, a difference in definition. Psychologists and therapists will give you a definition difference between humiliation and embarrassment. Embarrassment is internally generated. Humiliation is typically because someone else is making fun of you. Humiliation is often external. They can be tied together, obviously, but the source is what differentiates them. But I have to dig deep sometimes to recall some of those life's most embarrassing moments. I've done things that at the moment I was embarrassed by. But yeah, okay, number 5, get in the car again or get on the horse again, right? It's like you can't go get back into that situation where the embarrassment occurred. Once again, I don't think I was unjustified to never go back to my dentist again. But to the extent possible, I mean, don't go into isolation and stop living your life. Number 6, laugh about it. This one is easy in hindsight. I mean, embarrassment stories make great cocktail party material. Sometimes they can be great conversation starters, right? When you're in sensitive land, laughing can be a bit challenging, which is why you need a good friend to help you with it, right? Trusted, sometimes first sharing some of the embarrassing moments with a trusted friend. Have you seen, there's some videos out there, there's one in particular I'm thinking of from not that long ago, where a woman gets in and does, I don't know if she did a live feed or just a recording on her phone. It was something that just happened where she went up to the wrong car and started, that she thought was her car, and she saw a man like wiping the windshield or something, and she thanked him so much and gave him a big hug. And then she tried to get into her car, and she realized it wasn't her car, it was his car. And she gets in her car, and she is sharing it right at that moment and laughing hysterically about this faux pas that she just committed. Talk about being able to get past the moment. That's great. Laugh about it. Allow some tilting. Embarrassment belongs to the disorder known as perfectionism. Wow, can I appreciate that at times? Think about it. You're embarrassed because you didn't live up to your own standards. There is a small or wide gap between your expectations of yourself and your performance. As a person who writes a lot about relationships and mental health, she says, I sometimes fool myself into thinking that I'm fixed. I dispense the stuff on a daily basis, so obviously I live it. Not. When I land in a messy situation, I think, how the heck did this happen if I'm the expert? So, even it doesn't matter how perfect we are or think we are, allow yourself a little bit of off-centering. Number 8, learn how to be afraid. Embarrassment is essentially fear of being perceived in a way that is less endearing than we'd like. It's okay to recognize, to bring out the fact that we're afraid of certain things. I'm afraid of disappointing people. That's one of my biggest stumbling blocks, is that if I think I'm disappointing someone, that to me is in and of itself embarrassing. I have to own that, because that's the first step to not letting it overcome me, right? Number 9, step away from the looking glass. I once heard this expression, I'm not who I think I am, nor am I who you think I am, but I am who I think you think I am. I had to repeat it like 4 times before I got the gist. Most of the time we lose our identity on what we think other people think of us. And part of it is that idea that if we realized how seldom people are really thinking about us or worried about what they think of us, we would not be so worried about it ourselves. Number 10, solicit other stories. Another thing that we're doing today. There's no doubt that comparing your incident with others will make you feel better, or at least in good company. Look, I'm not going to finish reading this. I mean, I think it speaks for itself. But the bottom line is, we all deal with embarrassment. We deal with it in some fashion throughout our lives, right? But the funny thing is, we don't start out life with embarrassment. As babies, even as toddlers, as young children, we don't start experiencing, we're not filtered, and we don't start experiencing embarrassment until we learn that certain things are embarrassing. Now, there's a part of it that becomes a part of our emotional structure, our emotional maturing, where, internally we want to live up to certain standards. And some of it is personality, but some of it is taught, and some of it is brought about because of situations where others do not treat us in a way that builds us up. If we're treated in a way that tears us down, that humiliation will lead to us. You can call it embarrassment. You can simply call it feeling that destruction of self. And that's when it goes beyond just being embarrassed. Embarrassment, we almost think of as being those times when we just kind of go, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish that hadn't happened. It can go well beyond that and become something truly destructive. If you deal with those types of things, there are ways to get help. Please do not isolate in your embarrassment or your humiliation. If you feel the kind of stress about your own identity, about your own behavior that goes beyond a little bit of self-effacing and becomes self-destructive, please, please, please deal with that in the appropriate ways. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Listen, we're coming to the end of our time. Thank you for sharing some of your own embarrassing situations. Feel free to do that if you're comfortable. I don't force that out of anybody, but if you're comfortable sharing some of yours, bring them out into the open. Let's laugh about them together if they're worth laughing about, or at least let's be sympathetic and empathetic about the fact that we all understand it. We all get each other. Let me tell you what's coming up. We do have some, now that we're back on the air, I do have actually another date coming up next month when we're going to be gone, and I'll share more about that as we get closer. But the next couple of weeks, next week, we're going to play a game. We're going to get to do something interactive again. We do that every few weeks where everybody on with us here, it's you, gets to participate actively in a little game. We're going to play a little thing called This or That. It's a get to know you icebreaker type of thing. What are your preferences in comparison to certain things like, coffee or tea, the lake or the ocean, a movie or a play. We kind of you do some kind of comparisons between certain things, and everybody responds what their preference would be, and we learn a little bit about each other. Shalane Shepard, who you all know, she's been on as a guest and a co-host in the past, is going to join me as guest co-host next week so that we can have the conversation here, but you're going to be part of the conversation. And then on October 2nd, Ann Davis East hasn't been with us for a little while, but our resident bibliophile, Ann Davis East, is going to be back to talk about what's on your bookshelf. This is going to be sharing some ideas for mystery books, mystery reads. And then on the 9th, we're going to be gone again because of another family opportunity. And then we've got some programs coming up later in October that are being finalized. I think you're really going to love. Anyway, just know I just love the fact that you are here. Appreciate all of you for being here, for being a part of the conversation, for being a part of this community. And just know, I appreciate every one of you. This is community for me. It has certainly become more so in the last in excess of a year and a half that we have been dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, that we have had to deal off and on and in various phases of either isolating or at least having to adapt to our environments. I think this is important for all of us, but it goes beyond that. You're part of my tribe. You're part of my family. You are friends. And when we have coffee breaks together, I kind of envision it, even though I don't get to see your faces, I see your comments. And I think about us all sitting around a huge table, all with our cup of coffee or tea and just enjoying the time together. And hopefully at some point, that's what we can do. In the meantime, just God bless you. I appreciate you. I love you all. And remember, find a way to make a difference in your world this week. We'll see you next time.